All right, whenever you're ready, sir.
All right. Hello, my name is Dustin Anderson. I'm here to talk to you today about my research and design project. The title of my project is Analysis of Sports Testing as a Predictor of Player Performance in Division III Defensive Football Players. When I first started thinking about this research, I played with a couple ideas, and this is sort of what came to be from all the thinking and trying to plug it in. It was to see if a correlation existed between sports testing and athletic performance, and also to see if any of the sports tests could be a predictor of athletic performance. What I thought would happen, I predicted that the athletes that had a higher level of athleticism would have the greatest success to win competition. And when I talk about athleticism, I'm talking about four basic goals, which is strength, power, speed, and agility. Strength is the capacity to generate a maximal amount of force with no time limit. And power is the production of force and movement velocity with a constraint of time. And speed is the ability of an athlete to move as fast as possible through an optimal range of motion in a deliberate and internal manner in a particular direction. And agility is just basically being able to change directions and keep that speed and accelerate again quickly. So the problem was, how am I going to test athleticism? I started talking to the football staff here at Emory College, and they let me see their preseason testing for April, and they had a 1-rep bench press, 1-rep squat, hang clean, pro agility, and vertical jump, which seemed like a pretty good testing battery to test all levels of athleticism. Then was the next question: how am I going to get productivity points? At first, I was going to try the whole football team, but come to find out, the defensive coaches had a great and easy to follow means of seeing how the players were during competition. So I'm just going to talk to you about productivity points for a little bit. I looked at the end of the season productivity. So let's say player X did all this, and this is at the end of the season. He had 32 tackles. He had a numeric value of 2. 32 times 2, he gets 64 for that. And I'm not going to go into every one. You can see those. But they also could get negative points as well. Say he missed a tackle, he had 10 of those, he would get a negative 2. You would add up all those things, multiply it by the corresponding numeric value, and player X had a productivity of 174 for that semester, for that season. And in my subjects, here's a good picture of our defensive players tackling a guy from Farron. I basically divided the returning defensive players into 3 groups by position. I had 10 defensive linemen, 16 linebackers, and 12 defensive backs. And this chart shows the age standard deviation between those, body mass standard deviation, and height with standard deviation. When I got all the results, I put it into SPSS software, ran a Pearson's correlation and a multilinear regression. The Pearson's correlation showed that there was no significant correlation between any of the sports tests and players' productivity. And also the multilinear regression showed that no test could significantly predict players' performance. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the research that I found. I found a good article talking about top high school recruits in 2001 and 2009. This study looked at 5 performance tests in 2 anthropomorphic measurements. And they found that the only good athletic performance indicator was a 40-yard dash. It actually showed a good correlation in all 10 positions. And also height and weight was a good one for 7 of the 10. So in this study, 2 of the best indicators weren't even sports testing. It was just measurements of the players. And also Robinson did a study with the NFL Combine and NFL performance in the Combine and draft order. He said the only good indicators were vertical jump, broad jump, and bench press. And he said that this might have a good correlation with draft order, but also that teams really don't look at it that much. The only thing they're really interested in is straight sprint time and vertical jump capacity. So it sort of begs the question, is this even really relevant to what the NFL is doing? And that's usually how we judge what we're going to do at the college level, because most college athletes are trying to make it to that next level. So it sort of shows that there's not a good correlation between sports testing as a predictor of athletic performance, but sports testing does have a role in the athlete's life. And it may be that sports testing is just basically what it is going to show progression in that athlete strength and conditioning program. Drew Peterson's a head strength and conditioning coach at Humboldt State University, and he said that he's had athletes that were big and strong in the weight room but bad athletes. And he said they also have some athletes that you consider weaker and not as good at the sport, excel in athletics. And he basically said what I said before is this is just a means of testing their progression from the strength and conditioning program. It's not a good indication of how they're going to be in the sport itself, but it's just a means of evaluating them and giving them goals during the season, off season with the program. Also, Kathy Wagner, she's the head strength and conditioning coach at Texas University, University of Texas, and she said it's more of a philosophical approach with strength and conditioning. It gives the kids a good thing to shoot for because they really push all-out effort, max effort, and a 1 rep max is just a way to reiterate that in sports testing. And both of them sort of concluded that sports testing takes away valuable time just from sports training. So testing an athlete on a regular basis is just going to take away from their overall development. So it may not be a good way to see if they're going to be successful in that sport, but it is a necessity just to see where they're at and see if they're evolving over their 3 to 4 years after college. Any questions?
Do you think that that this data where you just did on the defensive lines, that it may have been different for any of the other positions, or do you think that it would like carry out throughout the whole team?
That's a good question. Some of the limitations of this study was that I only looked at 38 players from the Division III school, and also I didn't have all the pretest data for the players. If I didn't have the number for the pretest, I just put in a numeric value of 0. And also another limitation of it was I only got 8 games instead of the total 9 for their productivity. And that was just some things that I didn't think were going to pop up. It was some assumptions that I would have all that data. Just a small population size, you can't really make a good generalization across the board, but it just begs the question, why are they doing it? And it just leads to more research to look at it. I mean, we need more research at Division III, Division II, Division I, even the professional levels, just to make sure that we get the best programs for the kids. Any other questions?
Where did the scale come from?
Scale?
The coaches used, was it theirs or something?
Yeah, it was just a system that they devised. That was only a few things that they had. They had also just their overall grade for the season, and they also had the effort. And I didn't include those just because effort's a little subjective with that one, and their overall grade really had no relevance with it. Just their end of the season productivity it was pretty easy to follow. If they did this event, they got this amount of points, and if they did something bad, they just took the points away from that player.
So you didn't necessarily find any standardized scales?
This was just for Emory and Henry.
One thing I think it'd be interesting to follow is if you could do something to project this out longer. I know it's going to be hard for you, but if somebody could pick that up and so follow those same kids. The only problem, and what you touched on things as far as like the combine, where the NFL has to do it, for them it's a bigger, obviously it's a financial stake. They want to be able to try to test those kids because it means a lot of money for them. But unfortunately, like you touched on, it's extremely difficult to be able to quantify, to say what a success is. And because the point you touched on again too is that even though somebody can run, a 4.740 or something, it's hard to quantify hard to say, people are going to work hard or their work ethic. So that's something extremely difficult to put a number on. So it's an interesting idea, an interesting idea for a study, but it's extremely difficult to do because it's hard to get those quantitative numbers and those values in there. But it's an interesting project. It's very good.
Yes, sir.
With the NFL's combine, like you're saying, do you think the reason that it's not only for monetary purposes, like you said, it's a big investment, they're trying to test these kids that they're going to invest a lot of money in? Do you think the NFL has just become set in their ways, I guess, and the reason they haven't updated it is because it's just been that way for so long, or do you think that they actually believe that it's actually a good predictor? Did your research find any relevance to that?
In NFL Combine, I think they do a 10-yard, 20, 30, and 40-yard dash type exercise, and those tests basically test the same thing. Also, they do the pro agility and cone drills, and pro agility has been around for a while, and they actually found some of this research that I've seen actually said the 3-cone agility test is a better indicator of performance in their pro agility. And again, I think they're comfortable with what they got. They bring in a lot of kids, and the kids know what they need to train for when they get there. So it sort of takes the guesswork out of it. And interesting that you said that. Robinson actually said that's what they really need to do is just to refine these tests to cut so much of the fat off of it, so you give these kids a better chance of actually showing you what you want them to have, and instead of a big battery of tests that can test the same thing, just give them a little more select number of tests that will test for what you want, instead of just having this big 3-4 day event. You can get it done in a couple of days, and you can get what you need. Any other questions? Well, thank you all.
Work, Dustin.